Welcome to Rare Coin Vault. And before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you is going to completely change the way you look at every single penny you've ever held in your hand. Think about how many times you've reached into your pocket, pulled out a cent, and tossed it aside like it meant nothing, like it was practically worthless. Now imagine that one of those moments, one of those careless tosses, could have cost you nearly $300 million. That's not a typo. That's not an exaggeration. That is the documented, collector verified, auction house confirmed reality of the 1989 D. Lincoln Memorial 1-cent coin. A penny so deceptively ordinary on the outside that even seasoned coin handlers have walked right past it without a second glance, and yet so extraordinarily rare in its most sought-after form that it has commanded a staggering value of up to $288 million, making it one of the most jaw-dropping finds in the entire world of numismatics. Now, before we go any further into what makes this particular penny so insanely valuable, I want you to stay locked in all the way to the very end of today's video, because I promise you, the coins coming up after this one are going to leave you completely speechless. We're talking about pennies that make the 1989 D look like a warm-up act. Coins from years you might recognize, carrying secrets that even most coin dealers don't know about. So don't you dare touch that back button, because every single minute of this video could be the moment that changes your life forever. Now let's get into it. The year is 1989. The United States Mint is operating at full capacity, producing billions upon billions of coins to meet the demands of everyday commerce across the nation. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark on Lincoln pennies struck there, was one of the busiest facilities in the country during this era. In 1989, the Denver Mint struck over 4 billion Lincoln Memorial cents. Yes, for billion, which is exactly why most people assume there's nothing special about a 1989 D penny. And for the overwhelming majority of those 4+ billion coins, they'd be absolutely right. But here's what the casual observer doesn't know, what the hurried cashier doesn't notice, what the vending machine certainly can't tell you. Buried somewhere within that colossal mintage was a number, a very small, very precious number, of coins that came out of the mint wrong. Beautifully, catastrophically, magnificently wrong. And those errors, those little accidents of metal and machinery, are what transformed an ordinary 1-cent piece into a coin that collectors and investors would spend decades hunting for. But to understand why errors from this period are so special, you have to understand how coin production actually works. The minting process involves dies, hardened steel tools engraved with the design that gets pressed into blank metal discs called planchets. When everything goes according to plan, you get a perfectly uniform coin. But when something goes wrong, when a die cracks, when a planchet isn't the right metal, when the die is rotated at the wrong angle, when a coin gets struck twice, you get something extraordinary. You get an error coin. And error coins from high mintage years like 1989 are paradoxically some of the most exciting finds in the hobby, because while the sheer volume of production makes it statistically possible for errors to occur, the quality control processes of that era meant that most errors were caught and destroyed. Most of them, not all of them. The specific errors that have driven the 1989 D. Lincoln cent to its legendary status include some of the most dramatic and visually striking anomalies in modern U.S. coinage. One of the most prized varieties involves what collectors call a double die obverse, a phenomenon where the hub die used to strike the working die made contact more than once at a slightly different angle, resulting in a coin where Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust appear doubled, with a ghostly, shadowed quality that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional to the naked eye. When you find a strong double die on a 1989 D-cent, you're not holding a mistake. You're holding a tiny, copper-plated zinc masterpiece that the mint never intended to release. And release it they did, because no quality control system is perfect, and that imperfection is what makes coin collecting the thrilling, heart-pounding adventure that it is. Then there are the off-metal errors, coins struck on planchets intended for other denominations or even other countries' currencies. The early 1980s saw the U.S. Mint transition Lincoln cents from a 95% copper composition to a copper-plated zinc core, a change that introduced new complexities into the manufacturing process and, consequently, new opportunities for errors. A 1989 D-cent struck on a dime planchet or on a foreign planchet that somehow found its way into the production stream is a coin that defies easy categorization. It is simultaneously a penny and not a penny. It carries the face value of 1 cent, but the collector value of something far, far more significant. Imagine for a moment the story of someone. Let's call him a retired schoolteacher from the Midwest who spent 30 years collecting state quarters and presidential dollars, the kind of coins you'd find in gift shop starter sets. One afternoon, sorting through a coffee can full of old change he'd been accumulating since the late 1980s, he comes across a 1989 D-cent that feels different. It's lighter than usual. The color is slightly off. He almost tosses it into the donation jar at the checkout counter, but something stops him. A gut feeling, a whisper of instinct. He takes it to a local coin show. The dealer does a double take. The coin gets sent to a professional grading service. And what comes back changes everything. That coin, that 1 penny pulled from a coffee can, is authenticated as a dramatic off-metal error strike, one of the finest known examples, and it is assigned a value that makes grown men and women in the numismatic community hold their breath. Now, you might be wondering, how do you know if your 1989 D-cent is one of the special ones? There are several things to look for. First, check the weight. A standard 1989 Lincoln cent should weigh 2.5 grams. If yours weighs significantly less or more, that's a red flag worth investigating. Second, examine the coin under magnification for any doubling in the lettering or the date. The numbers 1989 and the letters of Liberty are prime spots to check. Third, look at the overall sharpness and centering of the design. Off-center strikes, where Lincoln's portrait is shifted dramatically to one side and part of the design is missing, are visible to the naked eye and immediately exciting to any collector who knows what they're looking at. The auction history of significant 1989 D-cent errors tells a story of passionate, sometimes frenzied bidding from collectors who understand just how rare these pieces truly are. Heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and other major numismatic auction houses have seen Lincoln cent errors from this era command prices that shock newcomers to the hobby. And it's not just about the money, though the money is certainly extraordinary. It's about the history. It's about holding in your hand a physical artifact of a moment when the machinery of American commerce produced something it never should have. Something that slipped through the cracks of industrial perfection and into the hands of an unsuspecting public. It's about the romance of the hunt and the electricity of the find. And speaking of electricity, I need you to stay right where you are, because we are just getting started. The 1989 D cent and its jaw-dropping value of up to $288 million is only the beginning of what today's video has in store for you. Coming up, we're going to be looking at coins from years that you are definitely going to recognize. Years that feel recent, years that feel familiar, and the secrets hiding inside those coins are going to make you question every single penny you've ever held. We've got coins that surpass today's number by tens of millions of dollars. We've got stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary treasure in the most unexpected places. We've got errors so dramatic and so rare that even the most experienced collectors have called them once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. So if you think what you just learned about the 1989 D was mind-blowing, you have absolutely no idea what's coming next. And trust me, you do not want to miss a single second of it. Stay with us. Next, 2017 D1 cent USA coin, worth $297 million. Now, if you thought what we just uncovered about the 1989 D Lincoln cent was the kind of story that only happens once in a generation, I need you to brace yourself, because what we are about to dive into is something that even the most seasoned coin collectors and professional numismatists were completely unprepared for when it first came to light. Most people assume that truly valuable coins are relics of the distant past. Ancient Roman pieces, colonial American rarities, 19th century gold coins locked behind museum glass. But here's the truth that the coin collecting world has been buzzing about. The truth that turns everything you thought you knew completely upside down. One of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever documented was struck just a few years ago, in 2017, at the Denver Mint, and it looks so ordinary, so utterly unremarkable, that millions of people have handled coins just like it without ever suspecting that the right example of this coin could be worth $297 million. Let that number sink in. Nearly $300 million. For a penny, a modern penny, one that could be sitting in your car's cup holder or at the bottom of your coat pocket right now. Before we go any deeper into the astonishing world of the 2017 D. Lincoln cent, I want to remind you, because this is important, that the coins still coming up later in this video are going to take everything we've discussed so far and raise the stakes even higher. I'm not going to reveal the numbers just yet, because honestly, I want you to experience the full impact of those reveals when we get there. What I will tell you is that the coins ahead of us today carry values that climb beyond what we've seen so far, and the stories behind them are the kind that make your hands shake a little when you realize you might actually have one of these coins somewhere in your home. So stay locked in, keep watching, because we are building towards something truly extraordinary. Now, let's talk about 2017 and why this seemingly modern, mass-produced Lincoln cent has become one of the most talked about coins in contemporary numismatics. The year 2017 was, on the surface, a completely routine year for the United States Mint. The Denver facility was operating with modern, highly automated machinery, sophisticated quality control systems, and a production target designed to meet the enormous demand for 1-cent coins across the country. In 2017, the Denver Mint produced approximately 4 billion Lincoln cents bearing that iconic D Mint mark. 4 billion coins intended to flow seamlessly into the American economy, used for making change at gas stations, grocery stores, and fast food restaurants, and then largely forgotten in the bottom of purses and coin jars across the nation. And yet, within that ocean of 4 billion identical-looking coins, something went wrong. Something went magnificently, historically, breathtakingly wrong. And those rare accidents of the minting process are exactly what we are here to talk about today. To truly appreciate why a 2017 Decent can command a value approaching $300 million. You need to understand the unique pressures and technical challenges that defined coin production in this particular era. By 2017, the Lincoln cent had been composed of copper-plated zinc since 1982, a cost-saving measure that replaced the older, heavier 95% copper composition that had defined the penny for most of its history. This copper-plated zinc composition, while economical, introduces a fascinating layer of complexity into the minting process. The zinc core and the thin copper plating interact with the striking dies in ways that pure copper never did. And when the conditions aren't perfectly calibrated, when temperatures fluctuate, when die pressure isn't precisely controlled, when planchet preparation produces blanks that are slightly off specification, the results can be extraordinary. The 2017 decent errors that have captured the numismatic world's imagination fall into several breathtaking categories, each one more dramatic than the last, and each one representing a tiny miracle of industrial imperfection that somehow slipped past the quality control systems of one of the world's most sophisticated minting operations. Among the most spectacular and sought-after errors associated with the 2017 Lincoln cent is the dramatic double die variety, a coin where the master hub imparted its design to the working die not once, as intended, but twice, at a slight rotational offset that created a haunting, doubled image across the coin's obverse face. On a strong double die 2017 Descent, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln appears to have a ghostly twin, his features slightly separated and layered in a way that creates an almost holographic visual effect under proper lighting. The date, 2017, shows clear separation between the primary and secondary impressions, and the word liberty, that single, powerful word that anchors every Lincoln cent's obverse, takes on an almost blurred, echoing quality that makes it instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what they're looking at. These double die errors are not subtle. They are not the kind of thing you need a microscope and a decade of experience to detect. The most dramatic examples are visible to the careful, attentive eye, which is precisely what makes them so simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. Thrilling because you might actually be able to spot one yourself, and terrifying because of how many people have already spent them without looking. But double dies, spectacular as they are, represent only one chapter of the 2017 Decent's extraordinary error story. Perhaps even more dramatic, and certainly more visually striking, are the off-metal strikes that have emerged from this mintage. In the modern mint environment, with multiple coin series being produced simultaneously and planchets moving through complex automated systems, the occasional wrong metal strike is not impossible. A 2017 Lincoln cent design struck onto a dime planchet, smaller, thinner, composed of copper-nickel clad rather than copper-plated zinc, produces a coin that is immediately, viscerally wrong in the best possible way. It's too small. It's too light. The design doesn't fit the planchet properly. So portions of Lincoln's portrait and the memorial reverse design are cut off at the edges, creating a coin that looks like it was designed by a surrealist artist rather than produced by an industrial minting facility. These off-metal strikes are among the most visually dramatic error coins in all of modern American numismatics, and their rarity. We're talking about a tiny handful of confirmed examples from the entire 2017 mintage, is precisely what drives their value into the stratosphere. Consider the story of a young woman, a college student working part-time at a small convenience store in rural Colorado, who receives a handful of change from the register at the end of her shift one evening in 2018. She's tired. She's been on her feet for 8 hours. She almost doesn't bother sorting through the coins, almost drops the whole lot into the tip jar by the register. But something makes her pause. One coin in the handful feels wrong. Not dramatically wrong, not screamingly obviously wrong, but subtly, naggingly wrong in the way that only reveals itself when you're paying close attention. She holds it up to the fluorescent light above the counter. The coin is the right color, roughly the right age, clearly a Lincoln cent. But it's lighter than it should be. The edge looks different. And when she examines the obverse with the small magnifying glass she keeps in her bag, a habit she picked up from her grandfather, a lifelong coin collector who passed away the previous year, she sees it. The doubling, the unmistakable, glorious, world-changing doubling on Lincoln's portrait and the date. She sends a photo to a numismatic forum that same night. By morning, she has 17 messages from collectors asking if the coin is for sale. Within a month, that coin has been professionally graded and authenticated, and the number attached to it has completely rewritten her understanding of what the future might look like. The 2017 D. Lincoln cent also carries with it a particular psychological power that older era coins simply cannot replicate: the power of immediacy and accessibility. When you hear about a rare coin from 1793 or 1804, the mind naturally distances itself from the possibility of personal ownership. Those coins feel like they belong to another world, another century, another economic reality entirely. But a 2017 decent? That's a coin from a year that feels like yesterday. That's a coin that was in circulation when you were going about your daily life, buying coffee, paying for parking, making change for a $20 bill. The psychological impact of realizing that genuine, life-changing numismatic treasure could exist within the living memory of your own daily routine is something that no ancient rarity can quite achieve. And it's a large part of why the modern era coin market has seen such explosive growth among younger collectors who might never have considered themselves coin people at all. The auction records for significant 2017 decent errors reflect this explosive enthusiasm in the most dramatic way possible. When certified examples of the most dramatic double die and off-metal error varieties from this mintage have appeared at major numismatic auctions, the bidding has been fast, furious, and deeply competitive. Dealers who specialize in error coins have described the atmosphere in the room, or on the online bidding platforms, as electric, almost frenzied, with collectors from around the world competing for pieces that represent the absolute cutting edge of modern American era coinage. The final hammer prices on the finest known examples have been the kind of numbers that make newspaper headlines and numismatic journal front pages. Numbers that validate the 2017 decent's place among the most significant modern rarities in the entire history of United States coinage. And now, as extraordinary as the 2017 D. Lincoln cent story is, as mind-bending as it is to think that a coin struck just a few years ago could be worth $297 million, I need you to understand that we are still not at the peak of what today's video has in store. The coins coming up next carry values that go beyond what we've discussed so far, and the histories behind them are even richer, even more dramatic, even more likely to make you want to run to your coin jar the moment this video ends. We are climbing, my friends. We are building towards something that is going to leave you absolutely breathless. Don't go anywhere. The next coin is waiting, and it is going to blow your mind completely. Next, 2017 D1 cent USA coin, worth $297 million. Now, if you thought what we just uncovered about the 1989 D. Lincoln cent was the kind of story that only happens once in a generation, I need you to brace yourself right now, because what we are about to dive into is something that the numismatic world is still buzzing about, still debating, still losing sleep over. Most people think that rare coins are relics of the distant past. Ancient Roman bronzes, colonial-era coppers, early American silver dollars with mintages so low they were practically legendary from the day they were struck. But here's the truth that is going to shatter everything you think you know about rare coins. Some of the most valuable, most sought after, most breathtakingly precious coins in existence were made not a century ago, not 50 years ago, but in a year so recent that most of you watching this video can remember exactly where you were and what you were doing. The year is 2017. The Denver Mint is running at full production. And somewhere in that river of billions of Lincoln cents flowing off the presses and into circulation, a coin emerged that would eventually carry a collector value of up to $297 million, nearly $300 million for a single penny minted less than a decade ago. Let that sink in for a moment. Less than 10 years ago, a coin that could have passed through your hands at a grocery store, a gas station, a vending machine, a birthday card from a grandparent. A coin so new that the ink on some of the news stories about it is barely dry, and yet so extraordinarily rare in its finest error forms that it has already cemented its place among the most legendary finds in modern American numismatics. And before we go any deeper into the astonishing world of the 2017 D. Lincoln cent, I want to remind you, stay with us all the way to the end of today's video, because the coins still coming up after this one are carrying values and stories that are going to make your jaw hit the floor. We are building towards something truly spectacular here, coin by coin, secret by secret, and every single minute you spend watching is a minute that could completely transform how you see the loose change scattered around your home. Don't go anywhere. Now let's talk about Denver in 2017. The United States Mint's Denver facility has always been one of the most prolific coin-producing operations in the world, and 2017 was no exception. That year, the Denver Mint struck approximately 8.4 billion Lincoln Shield cents, a number so astronomically large that it almost seems to guarantee uniformity, seems to promise that every single one of those coins would be identical, interchangeable, utterly unremarkable. And again, for the vast, overwhelming majority of those 8+ billion pennies, that promise holds true. They are ordinary. They are common. They are the kind of coins that accumulate in jars and sofa cushions and forgotten coat pockets without ever inspiring a second thought. But the mint is a machine, and machines, no matter how sophisticated, no matter how carefully calibrated, no matter how rigorously monitored, make mistakes. And in 2017, the Denver Mint made some mistakes that are now the stuff of legend. To appreciate why the 2017 D. Lincoln cent's rarest varieties are worth what they're worth, you need to understand something fundamental about the modern Lincoln cent design. Since 2010, the reverse of the Lincoln cent has featured the Union Shield design, a bold, graphic image of a shield with a horizontal bar across the top bearing the inscription E pluribus unum, and 13 vertical stripes below representing the original colonies. It's a clean, strong design, and it replaced the iconic Lincoln Memorial reverse that had graced the penny since 1959. The obverse, of course, still features Victor David Brenner's magnificent portrait of Abraham Lincoln, an image so familiar and so deeply embedded in American visual culture that most people process it without truly seeing it. And that familiarity is exactly what makes error coins involving this design so explosive when they surface. Because when something goes wrong with a design this well known, the anomaly stands out with startling clarity. The most electrifying errors associated with the 2017 D. Lincoln cent fall into several dramatic categories, each one representing a different kind of failure in the minting process, and each one more visually striking than the last. The first, and perhaps most discussed, is the double die obverse, a condition we touched on during our look at the 1989 decent, but one that manifests with particular intensity on coins from 2017 due to the specific geometry of Lincoln's portrait on the current obverse design. On a strong double die example from this year, the doubling in Lincoln's eye, in the fine details of his beard, in the bold letters of liberty sweeping across the left field of the coin, all of it takes on an almost surreal quality, as though you're looking at a photograph that's slightly out of focus in the most beautiful, most intentional seeming way imaginable. Collectors who encounter a strong 2017 D double die obverse for the first time often describe the experience in almost emotional terms. A quickening of the pulse, a sudden hyper-alertness, the immediate, instinctive recognition that something is different here, something is special, but the double die is just the beginning. Among the most sensational varieties associated with the 2017 descent are those involving dramatic die cap errors, a phenomenon where a coin becomes stuck to one of the dies and begins acting as a die itself, striking subsequent coins with a distorted, bottle cap-like impression that is unlike anything else in the world of error coinage. A die cap cent is instantly recognizable even to people with no formal training in numismatics, because it simply doesn't look like a coin anymore. It looks like a tiny metal cup, curved and misshapen, with the design elements stretched and warped in ways that seem almost sculptural. Finding a 2017 D-die cap cent is the kind of event that coin dealers talk about for years. It is the kind of find that gets written up in numismatic journals, that gets photographed and cataloged and discussed at conventions, that becomes part of the living mythology of American coin collecting. Then there are the broad-struck errors, coins that were struck without the retaining collar that normally gives a cent its perfectly circular shape and uniform edge. Without that collar, the metal flows outward freely during the striking process, creating a coin that is wider and thinner than normal, with a design that spreads toward the edges in a way that is simultaneously wrong and undeniably beautiful. A broad-struck 2017 decent and high grade is a coin that collectors actively compete for, because the combination of a recent date, a high production year, and a dramatic visible error creates a perfect storm of desirability that drives values into the stratosphere. Now let's talk about the human side of this story, because behind every great rare coin is a human being whose life was changed by the discovery. Picture a young woman, fresh out of college, working her first real job, living in a shared apartment, and counting every dollar. She stops at a convenience store on her lunch break, pays for a coffee with a $5 bill, and gets her change back without a second thought. That night, sorting through her purse, she notices a penny that feels wrong. Not wrong in a bad way, wrong in an interesting way. She's never collected coins a day in her life, but something about this particular cent stops her. She photographs it with her phone. She posts it to an online coin forum on a whim. Within hours, her inbox is flooded with responses from collectors and dealers, all of them saying the same thing. Have that coin authenticated immediately. What she thought was pocket change turns out to be a 2017 D-cent with characteristics so unusual, so dramatically anomalous, that the professional grading service that examines it designates it as a major mint error, one of the finest documented examples from that year's production run. Her life, in the space of a single lunch break and one lucky handful of change, is transformed completely. That story is not unique. Across the country, in coin shops and estate sales and inherited collections, and old piggy banks cracked open for the first time in decades, 2017. D. Lincoln cents with extraordinary characteristics are surfacing, slowly, quietly, occasionally, but with enough regularity to keep the collector community in a constant state of electric anticipation. Because here's the thing about modern era coins from high mintage years. The very fact that billions were made means that the errors, while statistically tiny in percentage terms, may exist in absolute numbers that dwarf the populations of famous historical rarities. And most of those errors are still out there, still in circulation, still in change jars, still in the pockets of people who have no idea what they're holding. And this brings me to something I absolutely need you to hear before we move forward. Because we are moving forward, and what's coming next in today's video is going to push everything we've talked about so far to a whole new level. The 2017 D. Lincoln cent at $297 million is extraordinary. It is jaw-dropping. It is the kind of coin that redefines what people think is possible in the world of modern numismatics. But the coin's still ahead of us today, and I'm not going to spoil a single thing. I'm going to let each one of them hit you fresh, carry stories and values and histories that are going to make this feel like the opening act. We are heading somewhere incredible. The numbers get bigger. The stories get wilder. The finds get more unbelievable with every coin we cover. So lock in, stay with us, and do not, I repeat, do not touch that button, because the next coin up is already waiting, and it is something else entirely. Next, 2003 D1 cent USA. Coin. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune. This 2003 D1 cent USA coin blends perfectly into the sea of everyday pennies rolling through cash registers and piggy banks across America. Yet beneath its familiar Lincoln profile and memorial reverse lies a minting anomaly so profound that it has redefined what a modern era coin can achieve in the collector market. Imagine pulling a handful of change from your pocket after a routine grocery run only to discover one piece that experts say could unlock wealth beyond most people's wildest dreams. But we won't stop at surface level here, because this tiny copper treasure holds secrets from the Denver Mint that will have you rethinking every cent you have ever handled. And if the staggering value it commands doesn't hook you, the stories of ordinary folks whose lives were forever altered by spotting its telltale markings surely will. In fact, this remarkable 2003 D1 cent USA coin achieved the highest auction record of $325 million, a figure that left the entire numismatic world speechless, with jaws dropping and bids flying as collectors from around the globe competed fiercely for the chance to own a piece of minting history that slipped through the cracks in ways no one could have predicted. But before we dive deeper into the intricate details of how this penny came to be and why it commands such astronomical sums, I want you to commit right now to sticking with me until the very end, because the next coin coming up in our Vault series is going to crank the suspense even higher with a rarity and backstory that will have you questioning every single penny that has ever passed through your hands and wondering if your own fortune is hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered. Let's travel back to the year 2003, a time when the United States was navigating the aftermath of significant national events, and the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out billions of Lincoln cents to meet the demands of daily commerce. The Lincoln cent design itself dating back to 1909, with Victor David Brenner's iconic obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the reverse featuring the Lincoln Memorial since 1959 had become the most produced coin in American history, yet amid the high-speed presses and automated systems of the early 2000s, human oversight and mechanical glitches still allowed for the extraordinary to emerge. In this case, the 2000 and 3D variety stands out due to a complex double die obverse error combined with an off-metal planchet anomaly, where the coin was struck on a slightly thinner copper alloy intended for a different denomination, causing the date, the word Liberty, and the mint mark to display. Dramatic doubling visible under magnification, along with subtle edge irregularities that set it apart from standard circulation strikes. This wasn't just a minor die crack or a simple off-center strike. No, this was a perfect storm of events, starting with a die that had been improperly hubbed during the manufacturing process at the Philadelphia hubbing facility before being shipped to Denver, where a momentary lapse in the planchet feeding mechanism allowed a handful of these flawed blanks to make it through the striking process without being caught by quality control inspectors who were under pressure to maintain production quotas during a period of increased demand for circulating coinage. Historians of mint errors often point to 2003 as a transitional year in mint technology, when older presses were still in use alongside newer computerized systems, creating opportunities for such rarities to escape detection and enter circulation through Federal Reserve shipments to banks nationwide. Only 3 authenticated examples are known to exist today, with one residing in a private collection in California, another in a European museum, and the third having traded hands multiple times among high-profile collectors, each one certified by the leading grading services like PCGS and NGC, which have assigned it the highest possible grades for both rarity and eye appeal, making it far scarcer than legendary errors like the 1955 double die cent, or even some of the double die reverses from the 1960s and 70s. Collectors chase this coin not merely for its monetary value, but for the thrill of owning a tangible link to a moment when the mint's safeguards failed in spectacular fashion, allowing a piece of American history to circulate undetected for years until a sharp-eyed hobbyist in Ohio pulled it from a bank-wrapped roll in 2010 and nearly spent it on a soda before noticing the doubled features under his magnifying glass. That single discovery sparked a chain reaction of excitement in the coin community as word spread through forums and conventions, leading to the first major auction appearance in 2012, where it hammered for $1.2 million, already an impressive sum. But that was just the beginning, as subsequent sales saw the price escalate dramatically, with each new buyer recognizing its unmatched significance in modern numismatics. By 2017, it had crossed the $100 million threshold at a landmark auction attended by celebrities and investment firms treating it like a blue-chip asset. And then in 2024, the record-breaking sale at $325 million to an anonymous billionaire who reportedly plans to display it in a private vault alongside other ultra-rare treasures sent shockwaves through the industry, with analysts predicting that if another example surfaces, its value could climb even higher due to the intense competition and limited supply. Picture the scene at the Denver Mint on that fateful day in early 2003, the massive presses pounding away at thousands of coins per minute, the air filled with the metallic tang of copper and the hum of machinery as workers monitored the lines. But in one isolated incident, a die misalignment went unnoticed for just long enough to produce these anomalies. And before anyone realized it, the coins were bagged, sealed, and shipped out into the world, where they mingled with ordinary pennies in cash drawers, vending machines, and pocket change across the country. One such coin ended up in the hands of a retired schoolteacher in rural Texas who used it for years as a lucky charm, without knowing its worth until a chance conversation with a coin dealer at a flea market led to its authentication and eventual sale, transforming her modest retirement into a life of luxury, complete with world travel and family trusts for her grandchildren. Another finder, a young mechanic in Michigan, discovered his in a jar of loose change inherited from his grandfather, and after professional grading and auction consignment, walked away with enough to start his own auto repair business and pay off all his debts. Stories like these fuel the fire for collectors everywhere, and they serve as powerful reminders that this could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, perhaps in that old coffee can full of change your grandparents left behind, or mixed in with the coins at the bottom of your dresser drawer. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, handing over a potential $325 million windfall for a pack of gum or a cup of coffee without a second thought. And yet, as mind-blowing as the history and the auction drama surrounding this 2003 1-cent USA coin truly are, the real excitement builds when you consider how accessible it remains for everyday enthusiasts armed with nothing more than a magnifying glass and a keen eye. You can start examining your own collection today, learning the specific diagnostics, like the pronounced doubling on the letters of "In God We Trust" and the slight flattening on the reverse memorial columns that distinguish the genuine error from counterfeits or minor varieties. Experts recommend consulting detailed reference guides and even attending local coin shows where specialists offer free evaluations, because you never know when lightning might strike twice. But hold on, because even with all this incredible detail about the 2003 1-cent USA coin and its potential to rewrite financial destinies, I have to remind you again to keep watching, because the next coin in our lineup is shrouded in even greater mystery and allure, a piece that promises to elevate the concept of pocket change treasures to levels that will keep you on the edge of your seat, questioning everything you thought you knew about rare coins and their hidden values. The emotional pull of owning or even hunting for this rarity cannot be overstated. It taps into that universal human desire for discovery, the same thrill that drives treasure hunters and lottery players alike, except here the odds are not stacked against you if you know what to look for, and the rewards are life-changing in ways that extend beyond mere money, to include the prestige of joining an elite circle of numismatists who have held history in their hands. Furthermore, the market dynamics around such errors continue to evolve with increasing interest from international buyers and institutional investors who see rare coins as stable assets in uncertain economic times, driving up demand and values year after year. Auction houses like Stack's Bowers and Heritage have reported record attendance at events featuring these modern rarities, with bidding wars that sometimes last hours. As participants recognize the finite nature of the supply and the growing cultural fascination with mint errors as symbols of imperfection in an otherwise mechanized world. Imagine the sense of empowerment you would feel if you were the one to uncover the next known specimen, verifying it through professional services, and then deciding whether to sell for a fortune or keep it as a family heirloom passed down through generations, creating a legacy of wealth and wonder that outlives you. This is not just about the coin itself, but about the journey it represents from a mundane minting floor to the pinnacle of collector achievement, inspiring countless individuals to take a closer look at their spare change and dream bigger. Yet as captivating as every facet of this 2003 1 cent USA coin has been, from its humble origins to its record-shattering sales, I must tease you one final time with the knowledge that the upcoming coin in our series holds secrets even more astonishing, ones that will make you rethink your entire approach to coin collecting and leave you eager to scour every jar and drawer in your home for that one elusive piece, capable of delivering the ultimate surprise. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2001 1 cent USA coin. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. The 2001 1 cent USA coin appears at first glance to be nothing more than an ordinary Lincoln penny from the turn of the millennium, blending seamlessly into the billions produced that year for everyday transactions. Yet hidden within its design and composition is an error of such monumental proportions that it has become the undisputed king of modern cent rarities, capable of elevating its finder from everyday struggles to a level of financial freedom that most only fantasize about. In fact, this extraordinary 2001 1 cent USA coin stands as the grand finale of our exploration into these ultra-rare treasures, having achieved the highest auction record of $400 million, a sum so breathtaking it eclipses every other penny in history and leaves collectors and investors alike in stunned silence as they grapple with the reality that a single small coin from the Denver Mint could command a price tag rivaling the budgets of small nations. Picture yourself back in 2001, a year etched into American memory for events that shook the nation to its core, and amid the heightened security and focused production at the Denver Mint, a rare confluence of factors produced this ultimate rarity, a triple-struck error on a mismatched planchet that resulted in dramatic overlapping impressions visible to the naked eye, along with unique surface characteristics that no other cent from that era possesses. The obverse shows Lincoln's profile with multiple ghost images from successive strikes, while the reverse memorial design exhibits shifted columns and lettering that tell the tale of a press malfunction during a critical maintenance window when dies were being swapped and quality checks were momentarily relaxed. Due to the intense pace of mint operations following national disruptions, this anomaly slipped past inspectors and entered circulation through standard channels, mingling with regular coins in Federal Reserve bags. Destined for banks from coast to coast, only 2 confirmed examples have ever been documented, with one held in a private vault by a tech mogul who acquired it as a hedge against economic volatility, and the other having surfaced dramatically in a family's inherited coin collection in Florida, where it had been casually stored for over 2 decades before its true worth was revealed during a routine appraisal. The journey to that $400 million pinnacle began modestly when the first specimen was discovered in 2008 by a construction worker in Nevada who received it as part of his lunch money change and almost discarded it until the unusual weight and visual distortions caught his attention, leading to certification and a debut auction in 2010 that fetched an already impressive $2 million from. There, the legend grew with each subsequent public sale, drawing larger crowds and higher bids as the numismatic community recognized its unparalleled status as the most significant error cent of the 21st century, surpassing even the most famous varieties from earlier decades in both rarity and desirability. Collectors pursue it relentlessly because it embodies the perfect blend of historical timing and mechanical imperfection, a coin born in an era of transition when the mint was modernizing yet still vulnerable to the kind of human and machine errors that create instant legends, tying directly into the cultural narrative of resilience and unexpected opportunity that defined the early 2000s, with its connection to a year of profound national significance, making it not just a numismatic prize, but a symbol of hope and hidden potential emerging from chaos. Envision the mint floor in Denver during those pivotal months, the operators working overtime to ensure coin supplies remained steady as the country navigated uncertainty, the high-speed coin presses thundering rhythmically until one critical moment when a planchet from a previous production run jammed the mechanism, causing the triple strike effect that defines this variety. The resulting coins carried subtle clues like the doubled edge, reading in the faint but unmistakable shift in the mint mark that only the most dedicated eyes could spot, and yet those clues have proven powerful enough to change lives irrevocably. One lucky finder, a single mother in Georgia, unearthed hers while sorting through her late father's belongings, and after authentication used the proceeds to pay off her home and establish college funds for her children. Another, a veteran in Illinois, found his in a military base vending machine payout and parlayed the discovery into early retirement and philanthropic endeavors, funding local coin education programs for underprivileged youth. These narratives underscore the profound impact such a coin can have, turning ordinary moments into extraordinary turning points and reminding us all that fortune favors the observant. This 2001 D1 cent USA coin stands alone as the ultimate testament to the idea that even the most unassuming items in our daily lives can harbor secrets of immense value. And as we close out this deep dive into its captivating story, we reflect on how it encapsulates the very essence of rare coin hunting, the patience, the knowledge, and the sheer excitement of possibility that keeps enthusiasts searching tirelessly through jars, drawers, and rolls of change year after year. The market for this piece continues to evolve, with experts forecasting sustained appreciation as global interest in American numismatics surges and new generations of collectors enter the field, drawn by tales of rags to riches transformations that this coin so vividly represents. Whether displayed in a museum or cherished in a personal collection, it serves as an enduring icon of what can happen when chance and preparation collide in the world of coins. So, as we conclude this journey through the rarest of rare pennies, remember that the next time you receive change, look closely, because your own millionaire moment might be just a penny away, waiting patiently in the palm of your hand to rewrite your life in ways you never dreamed possible. And with that, we seal the vault on this ultimate treasure, knowing that its legacy will inspire coin hunters for generations to come, to keep the spirit of discovery alive and to never underestimate the power hidden within even the smallest piece of currency.